Hi, Neil Stubbings, Managing Director of IVAI. I've been doing this particular role for about 2 years now. Previous to that, I've worked at Microsoft, Amazon and Spotify in a variety of commercial and product roles. So I guess what I'm really good at is understanding what new technology and platforms can do, and being able to explain that in a simple way for brands to be able to work with those technologies and understand them in a kind of meaningful way. So AI is a pretty broad topic. It's it's kind of a brand name in itself. It's been given to a group of individual technologies that do quite disparate things. So what I'm going to try and do today is give you kind of a top line understanding of the most relevant areas for brands and marketing and advertising, seeing as that's the industry that we all work in. So we're going to go through what a typical AI day looks like. So what are the touch points that existing users have already with AI platforms? How are those going to change within the near future? Just to give kind of a flavour of where we are already and where we're going to get to pretty soon. Then going to focus on 3 specific areas that are probably most relevant for the people in this room. So that's messaging and being able to use messaging and artificial intelligence at the back end of messaging to be able to communicate with customers and audiences. Relevant to that, but slightly more focus on customer service and CRM and specific use cases there. Moving on to voice, which is on everyone's lips, if you pardon the pun, and has the potential to be the most disruptive technology in the next 10 years, particularly in the retail sector. And then we're lucky enough to have a head office on the west coast of the US, so that means that I get lots of insight from what brands are doing over there. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the projects that we're being asked about by brands and marketers over there to work on, to give you an idea of general rule of thumb is what we see is what's happening in the US now will be happening in the UK in 12 to 18 months. So to give you a flavour of that, I plan to talk for about 45 minutes and leave plenty of time at the end for any questions that you have. So save them up till the end and we'll go through those then. So as I kind of said, we'll kind of go through this step by step to give you examples of where artificial intelligence technology is being used. What those touch points are and how it's being used there. There's actually, interestingly, a guy called Dan Hagen, who some of you may know is the Chief Strategy Officer over at Dentsu Aegis, just published an article in Campaign today, on a very similar theme. So I kind of feel validated by that to go through this. So let's say you're starting your day and your voice assistant wakes you up with your favourite song, and Spotify's AI has chosen that song for you, probably, but because they've been using machine learning since they launched their software. It really kick-started for them when they made a couple of acquisitions in that specific area around of companies who built machine learning models to look at specific data points within songs, match them together and be able to make those recommendations. So if anyone in this room has used Spotify, I suspect you have, your daily lists that are suggested to you, that is being updated by a machine learning algorithm that is working through those data points and making those recommendations to you. So you probably find it improves over time as well. And then your assistant tells you about what your schedule is for that day. So you've got a meeting with your boss at 10 a.m. Traffic on the way is light, so you should be there on time, for example. TfL bot tells you that your train's been cancelled but calculates an alternative route that means you won't be late. So again, you've got TFL bot, they actually have one existing. So what that will do is use artificial intelligence to quickly process alternative routes for you, looking at all the data points and processing those so it gets to you there quickly. You watch an episode of new series of Amazon, and it will be Amazon's machine learning, which is a form of artificial intelligence that's made that recommendation for you. And you love it, so you watch that while you're on the train on the way into work. The I Love Football bot has sent you a video of last night's Champions League goals, which you watch while you wait for your coffee, which has already been ordered for you via the I Love Coffee bot. So by the time you get into the coffee shop, you're waiting for your coffee, you're watching highlights which have been sent to you through your favourite messaging app, and you pick up your coffee while you're waiting. This is actually based off a prototype we built for a media agency as an example of show you how an interface at a front end could connect you to multiple different systems that you'd be using at the same time. So generally what you find in most businesses is you have multiple internal systems that you use to do different things. And something that we're talking to several different businesses about is using language understanding as a layer that sits across the top of all of those systems. So we have a language understanding platform that uses an artificial intelligence form called natural language processing. So what that basically means is the ability for machines to understand language, process it, and then be able to respond in the correct way and understand what it is in terms of context, the context and syntax of the language, and being able to deliver the correct content off the back of that. So where you have multiple systems, I'll let's play through and you'll see. Where you have those multiple systems, users can actually just type in what they're looking for, and it will access those systems and then pull out the correct information from there. So this is a front-end interface, and at the back end you have artificial intelligence doing the hard work. So it's looking at your calendar, looking at the last time you were in touch with a specific client who's been highlighted, tagged as being significant for you. So something that artificial intelligence is particularly good at is processing data. So things like campaign optimizations or looking at hard data without bias. So what it will do is looked at a campaign, looked at 10 lines of it, made 10 recommendations. You've said, yes, do the first 5. And it's asking, why don't you want to do the other 5? So, well, we did that last time and it wasn't something the client was happy about because the AI can't give it context. So it's requiring the human to give it that feedback to say, here's the five things we didn't do and here's why we don't do them. So you're providing a feedback loop to improve the technology. And then what it's doing is accessing these multiple different systems, enabling through one interface to be able to do those multiple functions. So here we're looking in terms of just kind of reducing friction, so being able to track time for timesheets, but anything that you can do to reduce friction using technology to make things simpler. So you'd be able to track all of those things. That goes then into a master kind of data set that can be able to access by that business. So it's something you can have that is not very far away from an assistant that helps you through your workday. And having multiple functions within there, being able to pull them through to one interface is just going to make people's time so much more efficient. So yeah, things like this we're already looking at building, so these are not very far away. So go through the other things. So that's the kind of business manager that you're working with as a tool. You make some of those optimizations. You feed back to the bot why you won't be making the ones that you don't want to make. LifeBot recommends what you should be eating based on your activity and diet so far this week. Now, there's various applications that do this kind of thing already. If anyone's used LifeSum, so basically you can input into here your weight goal. You can track food that you're eating by either scanning it or typing it in, and it tells you the nutritional value of that food. It can track exercise from wearable devices or from your phone that you're doing, or you can manually input it, and it will calculate based on all those things and your fitness goals, what it is that you should be eating, what recommendations you should have. You should be eating more fish, you should be eating more fruit and veg, etc. And at the end of the day, you decide to go to the pub and gym, the AI has done some things for you. So that's just to give kind of a flavour of some of the touch points already that artificial intelligence is already touching, and how you could use them in the workplace, but also in kind of consumers' lives. Going to move on to messaging. So started with messaging here for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it's huge, and secondly, because it's also growing. So if you look at it just on the basic principles of advertising and marketing, i.e. you need to be where your customers are. So you need to be delivering what service it is or what message it is that you have in the places where people spend their time. It's kind of, goes back to the oldest principles of advertising and marketing. So if you look at messaging apps are the most commonly used, widely used applications on any phone. If you're not one of the top 4 applications on someone's phone, it's basically like junk mail. You have apps that sit on your phone that never get used. So being able to access messaging, which is being used every day, expedites that journey for users. So you're talking about taking what it is that your business does, what your brand message is, to where it is that people are spending their time. So more time is spent in top 4 messaging apps than top 4 social media apps, and it's growing. 56% of people expect their use of messaging apps to increase over the next 2 years. So that's why, in terms of platforms and ways to reach customers, that's why you should be looking at messaging. So if you look here, used by 64% of Facebook users monthly. So they're growing both in reach and frequency of use. So being used every month. That's a US figure. Facebook don't provide a UK figure, but it's believed to be about 25 million every month using Messenger. And not surprisingly, it's most prevalent amongst the youngest audiences, who are messaging all the time, and their first option to go to interact with the business is to message them. So really, when Facebook launched their chatbot platform for Messenger in 2016, and that's really when we started to see things kick on in terms of people looking at using artificial intelligence as a way of interacting with their customers and as a way of running campaigns. So not only has it kind of grown as a platform that people use, but people have started getting used to messaging businesses there. The expectation from users has changed, so they expect businesses to be active and available wherever they are. So whatever platform it is that they choose to be using at the time, they expect to be able to interact with the business there. So 67% say will message with brands more in the next 2 years, and 53% say they're more likely to shop with a brand that they can contact via an app. So while chatbots themselves aren't new, they've been available on websites for a long, long time. It's really the shift into the social sphere that has kind of kick-started interest and brands thinking about them a lot more. I'm going to show you a couple of examples that are two ways that the brands are using them outside of customer service, and then I'm going to move on to customer service. So one is about content delivery. So being able the ability to be able to deliver content through messaging platforms. And it's not something a lot of people have done. We've worked with a few entertainment clients to do it, really on kind of an RFP basis. You probably will have seen The Guardian and a few other news providers who are doing it. But I do think there's a real opportunity for the likes of BT Sport, for example, or Sky, to look at different ways of delivering content to people through messaging, because it's an extremely personal way of doing it. You can start to, you can adapt the way that you deliver content to people so that it's snackable, that people can pick up when they're on the way to work. You can notify people with content, with daily updates as well. So content really is something that I'd expect to grow, and we've already seen growing on the brands that we've been working with. NBA is a great example. So NBA in the US, you can type in the name of a player, LeBron James, for example, and you can basically start following that player. So every time LeBron James plays a game, it sends you a notification telling you that LeBron James is about to play. This game starts at this time. It will then say, after the game is finished, it will send you the next morning a highlights reel of all of LeBron James, only his plays within that game. So you can then watch those videos within the app. I'm going to show you this example that we built for Warner Brothers, live right now, so you can actually check it out. So we've built this in 20 different countries, in 12 different languages, I believe. And this is about using a new channel in a completely new way to create content that's personal and really highly engaging. So we kind of gamified the messaging platform here. And it kind of runs off the principle of those choose your own story books that you used to get, like turn to page 10 if you want to attack the castle. If you want to swim through the moat, go to page 20. It kind of plays on that principle and allows the user to choose their journey through the content, which is pretty cool. So actually built in, so you could buy tickets through here as well. This is the US version, so you're using Fandango. They had a different ticketing partner for each country. This function you've just seen is called a web view. So you can actually pull in web functionality into Messenger without users having to leave the platform. So they can watch trailers through YouTube, because obviously still want to be able to drive YouTube views, and then enter the main content experience. So using actual footage and images from the film and storylines from the actual film to actually immerse users in the world of the film. These are all GIFs, so while video within here doesn't autoplay, GIFs do. So then you've selected the option that you want to go through. So you're telling the story with mixture of text, videos, GIFs. You can actually time these messages as well, so that you can interact with the timing of the GIFs. So here we actually included HTML games, so as part of the experience. So in order to unlock the next piece of content, you had to complete these challenges. So this is called a karakuri, which is a kind of Japanese puzzle, which again is part of the film. So you have to solve that, then that then disappears and you unlock the next piece of content, which is pretty cool. So the whole experience end to end is about 15 minutes of content. So we've seen average engagement times of 9 minutes per user, which is kind of crazy. You don't see those kind of engagements on YouTube videos or trailers, or even if you build a microsite for anything, you won't see that kind of engagement time. So it's pretty crazy. At the other end of the scale, we're building business tools. So this is work we've been doing with Estee Lauder. And this is an end-to-end e-commerce platform. So this is something that's going to be always on, and we're going to keep iterating on build. So we launched this first version in January, and we're working on the features for the next version at the moment to continue to improve it. So whilst not only does it allow a user to try on using facial recognition, try on makeup, allows them to search, they can book appointments with a makeup artist, they can find the nearest store within here as well. So it's multifunction bot. It also includes content, so Ideas and Inspo is their content. What you'll also notice is that the use of slang and things that I can't pull off when I say them, but all the copy has been written by their social media manager. So at the back end is the CMS, so our conversational model is actually pulling every single one of these images or pieces of text from a CMS or from their website. So we're combining the kind of automation that you want to make something scalable with the control that you require as a marketer. So everything is pre-approved, brand approved, copy, tone of voice, exactly how you would want it to go out, and the way that you'd work with other channels. What's really interesting is we've actually used an AI search model to enable people to search by free text. So that's a combination of what we call intents, so allowing them to navigate around the bot by typing in bag, we'll show them their bag, for example, and being able to delineate between that and products. So we've connected to their entire product API, which means we've connected to their entire product catalog. We're automatically pulling that into the bot, and we're allowing people to search for that using free text. This is point booking. Again, we're using WebView. And then when it comes to checkout, because payments haven't been enabled yet, so checkout is done through WebView, so it's all secure through their existing payment channels through WebView. Cool. So we can move on to customer service and CRM. And while this is related to messaging, there are the reason I've separated out is one, because it's such a big use case for artificial intelligence, and the second is it doesn't always have to be done through messaging platforms. It's a lot more about what's going on at the back end than it is the front end platform that you're using. It's more about the CRM systems that you're plugging into. It's more about how you're connecting touch points with your customer and understanding that customer in a better way. And it's about the technology that you're using to enable that, which again is natural language processing. Ability to be able to understand language is what enables you to be able to use these things. So again, if we kind of just look at the scale again, 60 million businesses on Messenger already. So brands are already taking it seriously. They're putting their brand onto Messenger because they understand that's where their customers are. Huge amount of messages going back and forth between users and businesses. And it's a preferential channel. Now that does, I will clarify, that does have a generational split. Fairly rough science, but generally kind of under 40 go to messaging first, over 40 go to email first. So we've actually built a product that works with email. So it classifies email, what's the intents within the email. So as in, what's the user trying to get to when they're sending this email? So retail is a good example. So if you're saying, I want to return this jumper, for example, your intent is you want to return an item. So we file that email in returns. And that you can then either choose to automate a response to that based on a confidence level that you set. So what we would say is the more examples that you have of people asking that same question. So if we've got 10,000 examples of people saying, I want to return a something, there's loads and loads of different ways that people can say that. In emails, it can be hidden in multiple intents without that, so we need to be able to understand how to pull that intent out of the rest of the text and identify the piece of text that we care about, what the intent is. And if we've got 10,000 examples of that, we can be really confident, 96% or above is what we've achieved previously, that is the intent of the email. And if you've set that confidence level, you can say, okay, I want to automate response to this. Where you're not reaching the confidence level that you've set, you say, okay, well, it's been classified, and at least my team of whoever's dealing with this knows what the intent from this email is and can respond to it much quicker. So from a brand's perspective, it allows them to take back a bit more control. So at the moment, kind of social media and customer service is a bit of the Wild West. People go to Twitter just to vent about stuff. So really that for a brand is about just managing that, like it's damage control. And if you can automate some of that process, even just with the frequently asked questions that you get asked all the time, but you have to enable, someone has to be there to answer those queries, or you get another tweet and another tweet and another tweet because you're not dealing with it. So you need to have people there to be able to deal with that. It allows you to learn and improve because you'll discover things about your business that you didn't know. Because you open up the channel and enable people to have those conversations. They're asking about things that you haven't thought about. You can feed that data back into every other area of your business. And allows you to delight customers. Responding instantly with a piece of copy that's been written by a copywriter who works with your brand all the time, there's a lot of value in that. Rather than having a conversation, even if someone's reading from a script or has been trained, you can't always guarantee how those responses are going to come out. So, and you'll often find that even where you have teams who are dealing with live chat, it can take 20 minutes, half an hour on messaging to actually get response back. So this is likely to be the most widely adopted use of AI amongst brands and businesses. I'd expect all large and medium-sized businesses to be using some form of artificial intelligence in customer service in the next 5 years. It's not straightforward in its iterative process, so what I would say is start with a specific area of FAQs with those, because that, for a lot of businesses, is about 90% of queries anyway. It's people asking the same thing over and over again. A lot of it is self-help queries, so you can just about being directional with users, so being able to respond instantly and direct people to where they can actually help themselves can be a massive benefit. And starting on the journey soon will give a massive advantage for the future, because you'll get to start learning now, and you'll get to be able to iterate much more quickly. And think about how this. Do think about like what CRM systems you're using. So are you using Salesforce Suite? Are you using Hootsuite for your social? Are you using Sprinkler? You can plug these models into those platforms that you're using already. So you can enhance whatever you're working with, your human team, your social team, your customer service team. In terms of email platforms, you can plug it into Zendesk or Salesforce or Intercom. If you're using any of those, it plugs into all of them. It's an example of something we built for Aeromexico, Mexican airline, where we built it both on Messenger and WhatsApp. So we delivered 96% automation on this because it had a massive data set that we're able to train on. And so that means we're only not able to answer the query 4% of the time, which is pretty crazy. So we reduced the average query resolution time from an average of 16 minutes down to 2 minutes, which is potentially transformational for a business. And the other thing was that in terms of open rates of messages, it's 10 times what they see on any other channel. On WhatsApp, that is, rather than Messenger. It's in Spanish. So I won't play it for too long, but just to give you an idea of how it works. So what we do is we build a model as an API, and we plug that API, that language understanding API, into platforms. So we use the same API for Messenger as we use for WhatsApp. You get the idea. People can type in their questions, and they get an automated response. Now, what could be really interesting, and we're about to launch the first piece of work that we've done in this area, using this particular area of Facebook tech. It's called Chatbot Plugin. So I don't know if anyone's seen this. Soft launched a few months ago. This is really interesting, and it could be the tipping point for brands moving into a chat or messaging space. I'll let it play, and then I'll talk through. So what it's basically allowing you to do is you can you build a messenger bot, and you take the experience that you built and you put it on your website as well. So it basically instantly enables live chat on your website at the same time. Not only that, but it continues the conversation between if someone's come to your website and asked a question, and then they go to Messenger or Facebook, you'll see the same continuous conversation go between the two. So you get one view of that customer. You can also then plug that into CRM. You can do data match and identify who that user is. So you get a full idea of who that user is. So this is really, really interesting. Not a lot of brands are doing it yet. It's just kind of coming out of beta, but that could be the game changer. So move on to voice. So voice has the potential to be in marketing, for brands, for retailers, to be the most disruptive technology out of everything we've talked about. And the reason for that, well, first reason is why you should care about voice. Look at the three companies that are investing so heavily in it. You've got Google, Amazon, and Apple. I worked at Amazon in the connected devices department, which worked on the Alexa platform 3 or 4 years ago. They are running so hard at this space. They're releasing a new product every 3 months. They're changing what developers are able to do every 2 months, advancing what they're able to do in terms of the things that they can build on the platform every 3 months. And don't underestimate how big they think voice is going to be. They're betting on it so big because they think it's how they will, they're winning already in the retail space, but they really think that this is the big thing that's going to change the game for them. Already seeing massive adoption, so some figures from both Radio Center and VoiceBot estimating. So estimating is going to be as high as 40% of UK homes this year. For a couple of reasons. One, because Amazon and Google are investing heavily in marketing. The devices aren't particularly expensive, and again, that goes with kind of Amazon's strategy of stack them high, sell them cheap, for want of a better phrase. Amazon's strategy is all around getting more people on Prime. And if the way that they do that is by selling them a device that they actually make a loss on, they don't mind about that. So what Google and Amazon done so far is created an app platform. So that's really how they've been engaging brands so far. So Google call them actions, Amazon call them skills, and effectively it's a voice application that you build onto those platforms that does usually one specific thing and specific area where the use case is an obvious one for being hands-free. That's kind of where people have started. So I'll show you an example in a sec. What I think hasn't really been explored yet in terms of how brands are using this platform is content. So if you're a brand who doesn't have an obvious use case for something that's hands-free, like recipes, or the one you'll see in a minute is bartender. So Kraft have built a cheesecake recipe skill, for example. So you say, Alexa, open cheesecake recipes. That's the intent that opens it. And it will talk you through how to make a cheesecake recipe. If you're not a brand who can do something like that, can you look at content as a way of doing that? So we worked on something for a baby brand around bedtime stories, allowing kids to choose their own bedtime story by interacting with the voice platform. And again, you actually don't have to, within the skills that you build, you don't have to use the AI voice as the voice that talks back to you. You can actually pre-record, you can use custom audio, so you can use pre-recorded audio that actually is triggered and talks back to you. So you can use your approved voiceover for your brand. You can use celebrity as the voice that talks back to you. So having a celebrity read you a bedtime story would be would be pretty cool. So this is one that Diageo have built.
Let's say you have some friends over. And to shake things up, just say, Alexa, open the bar.
Welcome to the bar.
It's like a personal bartender, except you don't need to tip. Let's start with a classic.
Old fashioned coming right up. Start with the sugar. Add ice. Pour in the whiskey. Stir patiently. Garnish with an orange zest. Cheers.
And for friends that don't know what they want, it can even find something for them.
Would you like something sweet or sour?
Sweet.
Looks like you're in the mood for a cosmopolitan.
Just mix, shake, twist, strain, peel, blame, and serve. Boom. Look at you, Mr. Bartender. Just say, Alexa, open the bar to start making cocktails. Alexa, I feel like a vodka martini.
Do you like that shaken or stirred?
So I think Diageo have done a pretty good job of that. It's actually works well if you use it, which some of the skills that have been built previously haven't. But for me, like the difference would be instead of having the Alexa voice talk back to you, which still feels like an Amazon brand experience, I would argue, you have someone who makes it feel, who's your own voice, who makes it feel like your brand experience. So, as I said, this has potential to be massively disruptive. These devices, the platforms, over the next 10 years. And the reason I say that is these areas really. Is how are you going to build your brand preference for voice platforms? Where, particularly where Amazon kind of has an amount of control over the products that are selected when you say add razor blades. Could they open that up to be an ads platform? So you could say, where you say add razor blades, would they say, would you like to add Gillette razor blades for £4, for example? If not, if Amazon starts making razor blades, is that going to be the default brand that goes into your basket? If you're a retailer and you don't work with Amazon, you're John Lewis, for example, are you going to want to give all of that data to Amazon? So are you going to enable people to shop on John Lewis through the Alexa platform and enable them to understand all of the user journeys, what people are buying, who those people are? Let's get Amazon know when you're logged into your Echo device, they know who you are, they know everything that you've bought, they're processing all of that data. So that means, are they going to work close with Google to build experiences for their platform? They can't just choose to opt out. They can't just build their own platform. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that plays out. Both from brand building preference and like I say, for retailers, it's a real problem that they probably haven't figured out yet. And then will ads find their ways onto these platforms? How will they work? Is it going to be Google probably in a pretty good position to take their search model and import that onto voice? They've been doing voice a lot longer than Amazon because they've been doing voice search on phone devices. So even though you talk about the Echo devices built up a lot more scale more quickly, Google already have the scale because they're on Android devices, which if you take the number of homes they've sold plus the number of Android devices, it's that many. Number of Echoes is that many. So actually we've talked about connecting the two. Google Assistant, which is the platform that powers Google Home and is on Android devices, that scale is much, much bigger. And what I would just say here is brands don't need to build skills unless you have a really, really good reason to do one. The reason why you might do one is if you have a chance to do one really well and you have a chance to do one early, you have the opportunity to become the ubiquitous skill. So I would argue that's why Diageo have done that. So that every time someone wants to make a cocktail, they've become the default they've got there early. So when someone asks their friend, is like, oh, what one would you use? Oh, I've used this bar one. So you get first mover advantage from that. But they do need to think about what voice means for their business. So they need to be thinking about building that strategy. Okay, cool. I'm going to very quickly run through some things we're working on in the US to give you some further examples and food for thought. And then we'll open up to questions pretty quickly after that, I think. So trend analysis. So we've looked at, obviously not name the brands, but processing combination of fast and slow moving data to predict trends. So what that means in reality is we're processing old transcripts of focus groups, of which there are lots, sort of 10 years worth of those, alongside indicators from social media. So it's kind of language, images, etc. that are being used on social media in association with a brand, and putting those two things together to create trend analysis over a period of time. Dynamic messaging. So this plugs into both e-commerce and customer service. So, for example, if you're a broadband provider and you want to find the best way of saying, please don't cancel your contract, for example, you can use, we call it a multi-arm bandit. So thousands of different variables of language to get to the most effective way of saying that individual thing. So it's about optimizing messaging and understanding for that. Image recognition. So you saw for Smashbox using it to allow people to try product on their face. But social listening, so being able to identify fake fashion labels, for example, is something that it can get pretty accurate on. To get good at image recognition, you need thousand different examples of those images. So we sometimes work with third parties who specialise in that area. Content recommendation. So learning what those signals and data points are to be able to provide content recommendation. Working with one of the biggest streaming companies in the world on that. User acquisition and customer service for a US insurance company. So there's a process, I forget the name of it, that you have to go through in the US when they allow you to switch over your health insurance provider. And that for the US is like young people and pensions in this country, kind of head in the sand, I don't want to have to worry about that. So they're looking to find a new way of capturing that young market, the same way that we do with kind of student banking over here. Using messaging to do that. And then major tourist board, both being able to kind of provide a form of customer service. So do I need a visa when I'm traveling here, for example? Is it safe to travel at this time? Answering those queries and automating those responses, and also allowing people to be able to plan their travel around that. A few things we're working on. This is kind of just move on to the last thing, kind of a quick dystopian look at the near future. So Amazon have bought this checkout list shop, and it kind of just, back to the point about how do you make your brand stand out in an environment where you can't use traditional channels that you've always used. This kind of outlines the challenge.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
You think about that, and then their purchase of Whole Foods not that long ago. Be really interesting to see what happens there. If you've been to the Whole Foods down in Soho, it kind of looks like that store already. But yeah, be interesting to see what happens there. So just kind of a quick summary, just a little bit of advice on a lot of conversations that we've had, and advice that I'd give you to go away with. Think about the why and not just the what. So don't just think everyone else is building a skill, voice is a big thing, we need to do it. Focus on why you would do it, the strategy behind that. So go through the normal processes that you would do for anything for your brand. Don't be blinded by science and jargon. Focus on what technology can do for you, not how it does it. So there can be a lot of kind of obfuscation. I think I've said that wrong. I'm just trying to do the same thing around what technology does and how it works. Don't focus on that bit. Focus on what it is you're trying to achieve, and then you'll be able to talk to providers, agencies, whoever it is who you're working with on that, on whether technology can do that or not. So don't worry about that part of it so much. Build proprietary tools where possible. It's quite important because there are plenty of kind of cloud services that you could tap into to do bits and bobs and tap into an AI platform that will enable you to do that. But where you can build proprietary tools and proprietary models for your business, not only will those give you a competitive edge, but you'll get more long-term value out of that as well, because it's actually technology you've invested in that adds the value of your business. And then start with one thing and do it really well. If you start by trying to automate customer service, build automated e-commerce, build a skill all at the same time, chances are you won't learn from one thing to the other, and just apply the same principles that you do with that. Like AI isn't really indifferent in that terms. I think pretty much time up, so we'll open up to questions now.